Several European countries have shut their borders to Britain due to concerns over a new, rapidly spreading coronavirus strain. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced on Saturday that the new virus strain had led to spiralling infection numbers. That prompted Belgium to announce that it was closing its borders to trains and planes coming from the UK, and the Netherlands to suspend flights. Italy says it's planning a similar ban, and a German health ministry official said restrictions would be imposed on flights from Britain and South Africa, which has also detected a new coronavirus strain. Austria is also reportedly planning to ban flights. Spain said, in light of the moves by other countries, it was asking the European Commission and European Council for a coordinated response. Otherwise, it would act unilaterally to defend its interests and citizens. On Saturday, Johnson imposed a new Tier 4 level of tougher restrictions on more than 16 million people in England, and abruptly abandoned plans to allow 3 households to mix indoors over the festive period, less than a week before Christmas. Immediately after the announcement, there was a dash to train stations and people tried to travel home before restrictions came into force. On Sunday, the city was eerily quiet. Places like Covent Garden, normally heaving with visitors and shoppers, left empty. Those who could be found in the streets of London, like Brad Nichols, expressed the view that it was the right decision, but that the government had left it too late.
Yeah, I'm pretty upset about it. I think the lack of planning and the lack of ability to tell people that this was going to happen in advance of when it did caused a lot of havoc and confusion.
Health Minister Matt Hancock said the decision to impose the restrictions had been taken speedily, and he condemned crowding at train stations as irresponsible. Australia's most populous city, Sydney, became further isolated from the rest of the country on Sunday, with every one of the country's states and territories imposing travel restrictions on Sydney residents. That's after an outbreak of coronavirus cases in the New South Wales capital broke a 2-week run of zero community transmission. 30 new cases were reported on Sunday, bringing the cluster infections to around 70. Around 250,000 people in Sydney's Northern Beach suburbs, where the outbreak occurred, have been put into a strict lockdown until Christmas Eve. At a time when many people will be planning to travel, the Australian Capital Territory sent a stern "do not come to us" message to Sydney and warned that residents would be quarantined for 14 days if they arrived. And this was the message from Victoria's Premier, Daniel Andrews.
I'm not going to wait around while they add to their rules. We are going to protect what we have built, and that is why the border will be closed from midnight tonight. There's an extra 24 hours for returning Victorians, but they will have to go into quarantine regardless. It'll simply be at home rather than in a hotel.
Both Victoria and Queensland have banned people from Sydney arriving as of Monday, prompting some to rush to Sydney's airports.
I'm ignoring, should I go today, should I go in a couple of days? And yeah, I just made the last minute decision to come today.
South Australia State imposed a 14-day quarantine for Sydney arrivals on Sunday and banned travellers from affected suburbs. Tasmania took a similar step on Saturday, while Western Australia State imposed a hard border closure.
India has reached 10 million reported infections of the new coronavirus on Saturday. It's much later than predicted as the pace of infection slows, despite many in the country giving up on masks and social distancing. India is the second worst affected country in the world. It hit a peak of nearly 98,000 daily reported cases in mid-September, but then daily infections slowed this month. This helped widen its gap with the world's worst hit country, the United States, which has more than 16 million cases. India expects to roll out vaccines soon and is considering emergency use requests for 3 types of vaccine developed by AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and local company Bharat Biotech. Some health experts say the fall in cases suggest many Indians may have already developed virus antibodies through natural infection. The National Capital Territory of Delhi said on Saturday its third and the worst surge in cases has now ended. A government-appointed panel tasked with making projections has estimated that 60% of India's 1.35 billion people have already been infected with the virus. At least 9 people were killed in a hospital fire in southeast Turkey on Saturday. Health Minister Fahrettin Koca said the blaze broke out in a private hospital's COVID-19 intensive care unit in the province of Gaziantep. The local governorship said in a statement that the fire was caused by the explosion of an oxygen ventilator. The mechanical breathing devices are used to blow air into lungs and have been crucial for severe cases of COVID-19. The prosecutor's office said 2 officials in the province have been commissioned to investigate the fire. Other patients receiving treatment were transferred to nearby hospitals.
A man has been sentenced to life in prison for killing 2 people in a shooting attack near a synagogue in eastern Germany last year. The accused, referred to by authorities as Stefan B., was found guilty of murder, attempted murder and incitement, according to court spokesman Wolfgang Elm.
After a total of 86 witnesses were heard, it became clear that there were considerable differences to what the accused told the court. He did by no means fully confess. There were differences, which explains the long duration of the trial.
He confessed to the crime and to having far-right anti-Semitic motivation. The shootings took place in the city of Halle on Yom Kippur, the Jewish Day of Atonement, and were live-streamed online. Prosecutors said he aimed to kill as many as possible of the more than 50 worshippers, and only his poor aim and homemade weapons prevented a higher death toll. The court's sentence includes a provision for preventative detention, which denies any release after a sentence is served, to protect the public from dangerous offenders.
Japan's Prime Minister approved a record-high military budget proposal on Monday for the country's 9th consecutive year. It includes funding the country's first stealth fighter jet in 3 decades from American arms producer Lockheed Martin. The country's cabinet secretary says Japan must strengthen its military to counter China's growing regional presence. Katsunobu Kato.
We as the Japanese government need to make our defense operations more efficient to correspond to the increasingly severe security environment.
Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga's record budget proposal jumped 1% from last year. And with his party being the majority in parliament, it's likely the Ministry of Defense will receive the almost $52 billion in April. Despite a constitution that forbids the possession of offensive weapons, Japan is one of the world's biggest military spenders. Suga is continuing in the controversial footsteps of predecessor Shinzo Abe, who reversed more than a decade of military cuts. Suga's administration is considering training Japan's self-defense forces to strike distant land targets in China, North Korea, and other parts of Asia. China plans to raise its military spending by almost 7% this year.
We've had a while to study the coronavirus, but it too has had time to study us. A new mutated strain is spreading rapidly across the southeast of England, prompting fears of an escalation just as vaccine breakthroughs were providing hope. Experts reassure there is no evidence that this new strain is more deadly, but it could be up to 70% more infectious and increase the R rate, or how much it spreads, by 0.4. A faster spread means more cases and inevitably more deaths. It was first seen in Britain in September. By the start of December in London, 62% of cases were due to the new variant. Much is unknown about the strain, but experts are hopeful current vaccines should still be effective. The vaccines work by targeting different areas of the virus, including that all-important and distinctive shape of the protein spike. The new variant contains 23 changes to the original, but many of those relate to how it binds to and enters cells. Julian Tang is a virologist at the University of Leicester.
People must have looked at this N501Y mutation and looked at where the mutation has occurred and tried to predict how much that would have changed the protein shape. And it sounds like they figured out that, in fact, it won't change it that much. So the vaccine-induced antibodies to the S protein should still bind to it and give you protection from the virus with existing vaccines.
Experts warn that future mutations of the coronavirus remain unknown. Influenza and HIV have continually mutated over the years, evading vaccines. The key is to slow a virus's spread before it has a chance to adapt too radically. While the new strain has also been detected in Australia, Italy and the Netherlands, it appears to be the most dominant in southern England, prompting numerous countries to close their borders to UK travellers. It was first discovered through Public Health England's genomic surveillance. Britain reportedly possesses some of the best global analysis of mutations. It's possible it's just able to see what is already present in other countries.